Good to see everyone who could be out tonight. I'd ask you, if you would, to turn to Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 4. We're going to spend really most of the time in this area of Scripture. Tonight, it is a part of the section that, actually it's going to be Proverbs chapter 5. It's part of a section that introduces the book of Proverbs, that includes the presentation of God's wisdom as from a father to his son, as the son is getting ready to go and make his way in the world and to go out and do, build his own family, his own life, that he's giving this final instruction. And the instruction that he gives is an encapsulation of everything that he's taught him all of his life. He's like, remember these things that your mom said. Remember these things that I have told you. And all of this is geared towards helping him make the best decisions in his life. At the end of chapter 4, there's a section that starts in verse 20 that I have often taught to young people and have encouraged them that the way that it is written, it's a perfect thing to put, by your mirror. A lot of times people will write messages on the mirror. My kids used to do that. Or you'll have something by your mirror so you remember it as you come in and out. A good thing to keep, to print it out and carry with you, because it's just a concise guide of watch where your eyes are, watch where your feet are going. Think about what you're doing in life. And in doing so, he says, starting about chapter 5, here is the benefit when you do it, and here's the penalty when you don't. And a lot of this, especially in chapter 5, revolves around what is the price. Now, I've actually done another sermon where I've used this graphic, so you're like, oh, I remember that. This is a different lesson. But I love this graphic. And I want to talk a little bit about the price. That's not the everything of this lesson, but I want us to understand these concepts because it really is the core idea of how we think about certain decisions. Is, are we willing to pay the price? I'm a businessman, so in all areas of business I've ever dealt with, one of the core things we often come to is a matter of price, whether it's something that we are putting together a quote for the government or something to purchase from us or from another company, whether we are hiring someone and we're discussing salary. Salary is a price. And you have two perspectives on value. Is what one person wants to get out of the deal and what one person is willing to pay for it. And so you think about, okay, well, what does something cost? And it's a very difficult question to ask because you may have something that has great value, and I might recognize that value, but I'm not willing to pay that cost in order to get it. It's just not that important to me. However, there may be something where I know the value and the person who's trying to sell it is selling it too cheap. That I know this has more value. They don't realize the value and they will actually sell it for far less than it's worth. And maybe they go along blissfully in their life not knowing about it, or perhaps they're watching Antique Roadshow one night, or they're looking on eBay and all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, I had one of those. Oh no, I sold that thing for $10. I could have gotten $200 for it. And it was worth $10 to him at the moment. Its inherent value was greater, and the person who's buying it was willing to pay that price. Wasn't taking advantage of him. This is what you want? Okay, I'll pay you that. I've actually known of some situations, no, Brian's talked about some too, where somebody will sell something, he'll go, I can't give you that. And he'll give them closer to what it's worth, because he's like, I feel bad going away from it. And so sometimes people help other people understand the value. And if you're unsure, you can ask people who know the value. If I had a pocket knife and I wanted to know the value, I'd get Steve, I'd get Brian, Frankie, and Grider, and I'd put the knife in front of them and I go, how much is that worth? And I would know within a few dollars the value of that knife, what I could expect to get it. If you find one, don't bring it to me. Bring it to them, because I don't know. So that not only applies in business situations and personal situations where you're buying a car and you're haggling over the deal and all those type of things, but spiritually and in our life, there are things that have value, but things for which we may find ourselves bargaining. And what you find, and I believe is kind of revealed here in this section of the book of Proverbs, is everything has a cost. Everything has a price. What are you willing to pay? And did you get what you paid for? And sometimes you'll find that there's something that you think you want, and then you pay the price, and then you realize that it costs a whole lot more than you really wanted to pay. And the cost may be exceedingly great. And so let's read through some of this to assess some of this value, to put some meaning onto these concepts. In Proverbs chapter 5, starting in verse 1, after he's told him to keep his eyes and his feet, everything on a good path, and not to swerve to the right or to the left, and don't turn your foot away, to turn your foot away from evil, but to turn towards good. He says, verse 1, "My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion and your lips may guard knowledge." For the lips, well, he's going to get into a situation, so let me stop there for a second. So he's saying, listen to what I'm saying and get wisdom. That's the key word through the first half of the book of Proverbs, is wisdom. Wisdom is not just knowledge, it's knowing the right thing to do in a particular situation, knowing this sense of value and cost and price, that something may seem appealing, but I know that ultimately it's very bad for me. Wisdom is the ability to know that something that looks good can be very, very bad. And so he says, keep discretion. That is this idea of being able to make a wise choice. It's interesting, the word that's translated discretion is more often in the Old Testament translated in a negative sense. That of scheming, of planning, like the evil designs of wicked people. It's used in the book of Proverbs to talk about that sense, like you're plotting what you're going to do. And yet it's the same word that's used in a positive sense here, that is, think about what you're doing. You know, you've heard it from your parents a lot. Parents have said it a lot. Parents heard it when they were kids a lot. You know, think about what you're doing. Think about from a big picture. Stand back and think what's going on, and that you may be a source of knowledge. And so he gives an example. And he's going to give this example of a forbidden woman. The idea here is the situation of adultery, but the principles can even apply if the young man is not married and the woman is or is not married. But he uses this warning. Now, a lot of times some people may look at this and go, okay, well, he's talking about this woman being all bad. If you're a woman, I want you to think about the things I read, that men do the same kind of thing. It's just he's talking to his son and warning him about the dangers of the forbidden woman. If he was talking to his daughter, he would certainly tell her the dangers of some dumb, forbidden men. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey. Her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she's as bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps follow the path of Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. And now, O sons, listen to me, and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, lest you give your honor to others, lest your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their fill of your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner, And at the end of your life, you groan when your flesh and body are consumed, and you say, how I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers or incline my ear to my instructors. I am at the brink of utter ruin in the assembled congregation. And so he talks here about a simple, common, and dangerous temptation, and that being of sexual temptation. And he says, the cell, she speaks, her words are dripping with honey. And again, women, think about from the men. There's some snake men who know how to speak to the things that you're insecure about, who know how to talk to the things where you have doubts. Oh, sweetie, no. Hey, and try to draw you in. And there are women, as he describes in here, for men. Appeal to how strong you are. Oh, how smart you are. You're so funny. You're funnier than anybody else. The words are a sales pitch. The words are enticing, and you think, okay, these words are just for me. And you don't think that these same words have been used many, many times. I've got a brother-in-law who fishes. So no, we're not talking about Martin. He's done Bassmaster tournaments, that type of thing. So it's not Russell. And it's incredibly successful. He's got a lot of lures, but he doesn't have a complete boat filled with lures. He's got certain things that he knows works multiple times. You know what happens if on a particular day he takes a particular type of lure or a particular color worm and he fishes and he catches it in the reeds and he catches a big fish and he brings it to the boat. You know what he does? He clips the wire, he takes that worm, he throws it away, and he gets another completely different type of lure. No. He refixes that, he puts that same bait in the same spot, in the same water to get more fish. Because he knows what works. And be mindful too that when he's talking about this person who is, this woman who is trying to attract this man, it is not necessarily that she has evil intent for causing him harm. She's just satisfying her desires. She is just doing something on her behalf, as we'll talk about a little bit later. And so it's not necessarily that she even realizes how destructive her life is. She may be as ignorant as the people that she is drawing in because she's living without discretion, she's living without wisdom, and she hasn't thought about the way her life is or where it's leading. And so it's not necessarily this grand plan of somebody who's trying to scam you or somebody who's drawing you in. Sometimes it's just one fool entreating another fool. That's what I'd say. The end, says, is as bitter as wormwood. So the lips drip honey, but it ends up being very bitter. And wormwood is just a material, a plant that they would get, these very bitter tasting things, and sometimes could be poisonous. And says, it seems sweet, but in the end, it's bitterness. And it's sharp as a two-edged sword. That is, it's going to cut going in and it's going to cut coming out. It does not have an edge that is not dangerous. And her feet go down to death, to the path of Sheol, or the realm of the unseen, the realm of the dead. That ultimately pursuing this is leading you away from life, is leading you away from the land of the living, in some cases quite literally, as we'll observe. And notice verse 6, to what I said before, she doesn't ponder the path of life. She's not thinking about it. Her ways wander and she does not know it. There's a lot of different translations on this. Sometimes it says her ways wander and he doesn't know it. That is, he doesn't realize that, or maybe she seems smarter. Maybe she seems very worldly wise. And women, maybe it's from a guy who looks like he's worldly wise and he's got things figured out and he knows this. And, if you give in to his seductions, that, you're part of that world, that you're as smart and wise as he is. It's like, he doesn't know where he's going. She doesn't even know where she's going. They're just following the desires that they have, and they don't realize, nor does the person going with them, that they're just wandering. And this idea of she does not ponder the path of life, her ways wander, stands in contrast to the end of the 4, where he tells you in wisdom, think about the path of your feet, ponder the path of your feet. Then all your ways will be sure. You will be standing on firm ground every time you take a step, and don't swerve away to evil. And so he says, look, this looks good. Seems like the price isn't that much to pay, and maybe one that I want to pay. And what I get in value, pretty good. I get satisfaction, she gets satisfaction. But not realizing that maybe after the transaction has taken place, after the sexual immorality, that you think back on it and go, that was dumb. Or for whatever reason, that I should never have gotten involved with that person. And that really cost more than what I thought it would cost. Verse 7, now, O sons, listen to me. It's like he makes a broader appeal to more men than just his son. And do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her. Do not go near the door of her house, lest you give your honor to others and your years to the merciless. And we read this section, and he's saying, look, here is the bigger price. Not only does her ways lead away from God into the path of Sheol, into to a living death in some ways, though you may not feel like it's that kind of path for a short period of time. He says, in doing so, you give your honor to others and your years to the merciless. One sad thing that I think people don't realize, when you think about the price and the cost of sin, and young people especially, I hope you heed me on this, and I appreciate your great attention through the lesson so far. Things you think won't last that long last a lot longer than you would ever think. By that I mean, you might participate in a sin for a short period of time and maybe think, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to repent one day. And maybe by God's grace you do, that you don't die in that sin. But it may be that participating in that sin for, let's say, a year, you develop some type of addiction, alcohol, drugs, sexual addiction, gambling addiction, or just habits. A habit we will consider in this sense like an addiction. Let's say you do that for a year. You've trained your body, you've trained your mind to want that. And then you have a moment where you decide, I've got to stop this. I've got to stop this path of life. And you decide to stop it. You're a year invested. But it may take you a year, 2 years, multiple years to get over it. It may take you a lot of years to overcome a physical addiction where you have created a craving in your body. it may take a time to, if you've been sexually active for a year, to suddenly decide that, no, that's got to wait till marriage. You've awakened desires in your body that are supposed to be woken on your honeymoon and then fulfilled in a way that pleases God. And to resist that until the time that you recognize that, I'm not going to do this again until I get married. And it's a hard battle. And if you've done it, please make that decision. It's a better thing to stop and then wait than just to throw your hands and say, well, I messed that up. No. It may take years of a habit that you've developed to undo that habit. And then it also may take years. You know, God forgive you like that. That's the beautiful thing. If you're not a child of God and you come to God and you confess Jesus Christ as the Son of God, you decide you're turning away from that type of life, you're baptized, you wash away, God wash away those sins, you come out of the water's baptism, you're a new person. God does not hold those things against you anymore, praise God. Boy, it may take a long time till you forgive yourself. It may take a long time before you can properly deal with how you lived. And so when he says you give your years to the merciless, it's not necessarily years to her. It's years that you are going to have to pay because of doing things that you knew were wrong. So that's one of the things I really encourage young people trying to make the right kind of decisions, is to recognize that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. And it's years and years. And so he says, don't keep your way far from her. Don't go near the door of her house. So there are certain places where you know sin lives. I promise you, if you're in school, if you're in a community, you know that there are people that you can go to who will get you alcohol if you're underage, who will get you drugs, who will have sex with you, who will do any number of things that you know you shouldn't do. You can always find it. You could type www and you can find a world of pornography as such has never existed, I think, in at any time. So easy to get. I think when I was growing up, I went with a group of men down to study last Friday night and then Saturday, and we talked about some of these things. And I was talking with my friend Keith, preaches over at Fultondale. We rode down together. I said, when we were growing up, it was very difficult to get to pornography. It's just, you had to either A, know somebody who had it, who was willing to share it or give it up. And we all knew somebody. More often than not, you were going to have to go into a store, give money, look the guy in the eye, that you got some magazine, because there was nothing online. There was no online. Have a magazine with images of naked women, and you were going to have to, and hope PA didn't give you a lecture, which you probably would. You're too young to be buying that, kid, But you had to involve somebody else in it and know that what does he think about it? Does he know my parents? Does he know people I know? Or be my luck, I'd go in and that age and I'd buy it, and somebody like Miss Brenda or somebody come in from church, oh, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. Just wanting to buy this keychain. That's what I was coming in here for, this keychain. So there was a theater called the Tomcat Theater. KAT, I think it was. It may have been. It was in Centerpoint. You had Cinema City 8 Theater. See, this is before Netflix. You had to go to a place, sit down, watch a movie. So Cinema City 8 was over there. They had one behind it. The others. Around this corner of the side thing was the Tomcat Theater. You just knew, hey, if your car broke down near the Tomcat Theater, if you were by yourself, you would still push it over to the K-Bar because there was no way somebody would say, well, I saw your car the other day. We need to talk, It's like, well, if you'd had jumper cables or it was so difficult to get. Now, not a problem at all. And the sad thing is, it'll often find you when you're not looking for it. And so a more heightened thing, and I've known of more Christian men and women who have gotten wrapped in with this. And I just urge you to do whatever you can. Take whatever defenses. Put whatever security things on. Husbands and wife, I encourage. My wife and I have always had this thing since our cell phones. We know each other's codes. We could grab it at any time. And that's and a convenience thing is a lot of times we just grab each other's phones at any time, not because I'm going to check what she's doing. It's like, okay, I need to check this. I know she has that app. I don't want to do it. I want to send Venmo or something to somebody. And so her chats are available. Everything's available. It's always there as to know what's going on, to be able to live your life exposed and out of the open, that if anybody came on your computer, you wouldn't be like, oh, a second. Go read War and Peace real quick. Let me go delete this and do this and all that stuff. Don't go near the door of her house. Don't go in the places where you know you may not be strong to resist, so that you give your honor to others. Now notice what he says, at the end of your life, not along the way. Maybe you enjoy the pornography for a period of time. Maybe you enjoy that sexual immorality, that affair, or whatever, for a bit of time. Tinged with guilt, but you justify yourself. My wife made me do this, or my husband made me do this, or whatever way you try to sell it to yourself. But then you get to a point, the end of your life, you groan, when your flesh and body are consumed. There's a physical toll on you. There is a physical toll of sexual immorality with many partners. It has a physical effect. It has a mental effect. Your flesh and body are just worn out, abused, and you say, how I hated discipline and my heart despised reproof. Basically, you say, I thought I knew everything and I wouldn't listen to anybody, and look where it got me. I hated discipline. And it's both the discipline of God telling us how to live, the parents telling the child how to live, and maybe doing things along the way to enforce that way of life. But the reason why God disciplines and parents discipline is so that you will learn to discipline yourself. To be a disciple of what is right. I didn't listen to the voice of my teachers or incline my ear to the instructors. And now he says, I'm at the brink of ruin, utter ruin, in the assembled congregation. I'm still among God's people. And I'm on the edge of destruction. So starting verse 15, he addresses it from a marital standpoint. Drink water from your own cistern and flowing water from your own well. The idea there is, and this is an important thing to understand, and the young people especially, do not miss this. Do not miss this. What God is saying through all of this is sex is not wrong. Sex is not wrong. In fact, it's portrayed in several places, and even Song of Solomon especially, as a gift from God. Your marriage gift from God. And God designed this in a way to bring a man and a woman together in a way that goes beyond the commitment that they made to one another in marriage, the things they say to one another to encourage each other, that physical thing. Not only is it just, and it goes beyond the physical action, there is an emotional, physical bond that takes place. And when that happens, there is a release of hormones that God has created to not only make it feel good, but also to draw them together and to continue to knit them closer together, so that when this happens within marriage, it is a very good thing. That's why when the Garden of Eden, before sin enters the world, Adam and Eve were naked and they were not ashamed. And the reason why is because that's the way God designed it. And it's when Satan tries to get us to use it in ways that it was never intended to be used, that it becomes destructive. And so the message of the scripture is not sex is dirty, sex is bad, it's just a necessary evil that married couples have to do this in order to have kids. That's not the Bible perspective at all. God's perspective is it is good between a married man, a man and a woman who are married to one another. And it is good for their enjoyment. It is good for bringing them together, to making them together something that's greater than the sum of their parts. So in verse 15, the encouragement there is about marriage. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. He's using the idea of having your own water source on the property where you get the clean water that you know its source. He's like, enjoy that relationship with the person who has committed themselves to you and you've committed yourself to them. Your springs should not be scattered abroad, streams in the water of the streets. Neither you should be sharing that relationship with others. And the implication is, look, if you're doing it, then what's to prevent her from doing that? Let them be for you alone and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed. Rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always with her love. Does that sound like God has a negative view of the sexual relationship within marriage? No, he's like, be drunk with love with your spouse. Be always drunk, intoxicated with her love. At all times, having the delight in her and she in you. Why should you be drunk, my son, with a forbidden woman and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? Embrace the bosom of a woman who doesn't even keep her commitments. For a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and ponders all his paths. The iniquity of the wicked man ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for a lack of discipline. Because of his great folly, he is led astray. He says, don't forget the big picture too. God's watching. God's ways are before you. God sees. And again, God's not watching you at all times because he's waiting for you to fail. He's watching you because he wants you to do the right thing. He wants you to make the right decisions and to make provision for you to make the right decisions. But when you do sin, recognize that God knows it. And that the iniquities of a wicked, it's not like, oops, I just made a mistake. But the iniquities of a wicked ensnare him. This again gets to that addictive sense of sin. In whatever form it manifests, whether sexual or otherwise. It does not really matter. It gets to a point where it entangles. Lies can get to a point where they entangle you. And it's hard to get out of that. You can get out of it. By God's grace, you can get out of it. But you end up being held fast by the cords, he says, of his sin. You've held fast by the cords of your own sin. You tied yourself up. He considers this on in chapter 6, other ways where you can be foolish in ways and you end up doing things that are ultimately, whether it's people that you hang out with who are violent, who are thieves, worthless people who have no stability. And in verse 20, he gets back into the warning against adultery and some of the similar things that he has. But he says, verse 23, the commandment is a lamp and the teaching a light, and the reproofs of discipline are the way of life. So live a disciplined life. Make the hard decisions to do the right thing, and you will be more pleased with your life and the results that follow. To preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. So we see, remember some of that language. Do not desire her beauty in your heart. Do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hunts down a precious life. Some of the older, or the Septuagint and the Vulgate says, for a prostitute leaves a man with nothing but a loaf of bread. You're wasting this money. She's captivated you with her beauty and her eyelashes, but once you paid the price and had that time with her, it's just, you're left with nothing. You develop a habit along that way. You're probably good to get away with a loaf of bread. So is he, verse 27. Think about this, especially young people, but old people too. We have a threat of adultery. We have threat of pornography. There's a lot of men that I know that have gotten wrapped up in pornography. There are men that I know who have gotten wrapped up in adultery. There are women, adult Christian women, Bible class teachers that I know who have gotten wrapped up in adultery. No one's immune. Verse 27, can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Can one walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? And you just stop with that thought. It's like, look, you play with fire, gonna get burned. I've heard Martin say that 10 times. I've heard it 100 times. You play with fire, you're gonna get burned. And so it says, don't think that you're the one person out of all of history who has figured out how to have that enjoyment and not have any penalty. Don't think that maybe even with you and this other person, okay, well, we're going to have a no cords relationship. We're going to have a no commitment relationship. Or that I'm going to be the one person who's going to be able to use a highly addictive drug and I'm not going to get addicted. Or I'm going to be the person. Don't be a fool. To think that you can do that and not get scorched, and not get burned. So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. And notice how he compares it. He says, people do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his appetite when he is hungry. But if he's caught, he'll pay sevenfold. He will give the goods of all his house. So just to stop at that, he says, look, you catch a thief and you find, why'd you steal that? Well, I was hungry, my wife and kids were hungry. And they'll go, okay, well, look, I understand. I have compassion, but you still stole, so you've got to make it up. But people understand that. They can have some compassion on a person who does something like that. He was stealing because he was hungry. It's not, okay, well, it's okay to steal. No, it's still wrong to steal. You got to pay a penalty, but we're going to be understanding. And who knows, maybe after that, then people try to help him out. He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself. He will get wounds and dishonor, and his disgrace will not be wiped away. Those are kind of things that go with you, that stay with you. But the jealousy makes a man furious. He will not spare when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation. He will refuse though you multiply gifts. I'll give you sevenfold money. What do you think? My wife's worth money that you can pay for? Oh, no, I didn't mean that. How are you going to satisfy a man when you have had sexual relations with his wife? What are you going to pay? What are you going to give that he's going to be, okay, that was all right for you to do that, unless he is just as perverse as it can be. Man who loves his wife is not going to be happy. Now, I tell you what, in our day and time too, there's some women that I would fear probably more than their husbands. That if a woman commits adultery, would need to fear that other woman for what she would do. It says people do this lack sense, and he goes on into it. I'll let you read chapter 7. I hope it's one that maybe, chapter 7, basically he's watching, he's looking, he sees this young man who has no sense, verse 7, passes near the corner of her house, takes the road to her house. He's going where he doesn't need to go. He's www, getting ready to type in a place where he doesn't need to go online. He's going into a place where he knows the opportunity for sexual immorality is taking place. He's going to a place where he knows he can get drunk, he can get high or whatever. He's going into a place that he can do what it is he wants to do. And he just talks about how he lacks sense. And it's basically an illustration of what he talked about in the previous chapter. And so he ends verse 24, and now, sons, listen to me. Be attentive to the words of my mouth. Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths, for many a victim she has laid low, and all her slain are like a mighty throng, they're like a mighty army. Her house is the way to Sheol, going down to the chambers of death. And again, flip it, make it all masculine. And there's a lot of guys who fit that description as well. A friend of mine, Rusty Green, I know it doesn't originate with him, but he's one who said it more times than I can count. Always says this, and it's always stuck with me. Sin will take you farther than you wanted to go, keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and it will cost you more than you ever wanted to pay. There's certain things that have inherent value. And one of them is heaven. When we think about these sins, and go ahead and turn your songbook to the Song of Invitation. When we think about what we just read about and exchanging this price of something that's value, whether it is your purity, whether it is your honor, whether it is a clear mind, whether it is Paul saying, I will not be addicted to anything. The value you truly place on that is what you're willing to do to get it. What you're willing to sacrifice to obtain it. It may be that there's something a physical possession that you really like, and you're willing to work all summer to earn the money in order to get that. Maybe it's to get a car so that, because you want that car. Or maybe there's something else that is just really worth it to you. And so you save, and your friends are like, hey, we're going to go to, do this. And you go, hey, I'm not this time for me. Because you're really wanting to keep using that money, save it for what you really want. And it's something that once you get it, then you value it. You know, a car, you're going to wash it frequently. You're going to take care of it. You're good because you value it. And you're not going to sell it cheaply when you knew the price that it took to get it. I tell you, when my kids got jobs and they realized like how much certain things really did cost. You know, it didn't cost that much when the money came out of Daddy's wallet. But when it came out of their work, and they start thinking like I did that time, that to buy this is this many hours of work. And I tell you, if you don't like the job, it's like, am I willing to work 10 hours of doing this to get this? A lot of times you're like, no, it's not worth that. And sometimes it is. I'm willing to do this job that I don't like for 10 hours because I want to get this thing, and it's worth it to me to make that sacrifice. The sacrifices you make or the things that you will not give up demonstrate the value you place on heaven. I'm afraid so many times when people go into, whether it's, as we explicitly, as we just read, immorality, whether it's younger people or older people, or whether it's sacrificing their soul for their work or anything else, that they just don't see heaven for the true value that it is. There's one more passage I just wanted to look at real briefly, and it's about Esau. Esau was one that he had the right as the oldest son to get a double portion of his father's possessions. But his brother, the deceiver Jacob, tricked him out of it, but it wasn't like he completely fooled him. Essentially, he took advantage of Esau when he was weak, so Jacob wasn't in the right either here. And told Esau, look, I will give you some of this stew that I made. You just give me your birthright. And he had been hunting for a while, and he was really tired. He came in, so I'm dying. What's my birthright good to me? And so he gave him the birthright for that stew. And then later on, when Esau really realized how valuable that birthright was, he wept bitterly, but he never got it back. He couldn't. And in Hebrews chapter 12, in telling verse 14, strive for holiness without which no one will see the Lord. Holiness being holy like God, purity. See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness, that's in quote, it has the idea of idolatry there, springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled, that no one is sexually immoral or unholy like Esau, who sold his birthright for a single meal. For you know afterwards, when he desired to inherit the blessing, he was rejected and found no chance to repent, though he sought it with tears. And in the very next section, he talks about the value of heaven. Brethren, don't sell the value of heaven. Don't sell your eternal soul for a few moments of satisfaction or a few years of satisfaction. Get the deepest, truest satisfaction that comes from doing things God's way. Get addicted to the good things, to prayer, to study, being zealous for good works. Get addicted to kindness and mercy and love and long-suffering. And put your trust completely in God. As we said, we have the means here. You confess that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Decide you're going to turn, that this is not the kind of life that you want to live, that you want to live life on a different path, one that's going towards heaven and instead of into the unknown and into Sheol. What are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up sin? I hope so. It's not worth anything. Are you willing to give your life? It's a small price to pay for the one who gave his life so that we could have eternal life. It's that value of heaven. It is inherently valued. It has a value whether you recognize it or not. And if you do recognize that value, you want to become a child of God, or if there are other ways that the congregation here can support you, why not come let it be made known while we stand and while we